Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com. So I got an interesting comment on one of my videos. I can't remember which one it was, but someone was essentially asking me how my view, because I mentioned something about taxes probably, and how my view corresponds essentially to someone like Warren Buffett, who has a different view of taxes, who really, I think Warren Buffett and there's a few different billionaires out there that have been recommending, or that have been sort of in the position that they're trying to get taxes increased. Like Warren Buffett has said that he should be taxed more, that he's not being taxed enough. And it's kind of interesting because I think a lot of people use this. They say, well, if billionaires are saying this, then obviously we need to be taxed more. Like, these guys know what they're talking about. You know, what motive could they have? They've got the most money. So if they think that they're not being taxed enough, then the rich aren't being taxed enough, okay? And so I want to talk about a couple of things here. First of all, the main thing I want to talk about is why that you can't trust billionaires. and it's different because there's definitely different classes, right? And depending on where you are, right, I'm going to try and give it to you having, from a different perspective, so you can see where, depending on where you are financially, where that is going to determine your political views to some degree, and why you might want to alter your political views based on where you want to be, okay? So let's talk about billionaires for a minute. So here's the thing, okay? Now, again, I'm not saying anything against Warren Buffett, right? He's probably a great guy, okay? I'm not saying anything against, certain billionaires. There's a lot of really good billionaire philanthropists, right, that are out there. But you have to understand, when you get to, if you're a billionaire, okay, as far as like anything you want to buy or own or have, it's pretty much you've got it, right? There's nothing that's out of reach for you. So if you're taxed at a very high rate, well, first of all, okay, here's another thing about being a billionaire, right? Billionaires probably have a lot of income coming in. That's probably true, but they have a lot of assets that are already created, right? If you have, let's just say you have $1 billion, okay? You have assets to protect. You're not concerned about income, okay? And let's compare this right now. So right now, probably you, me, right? We fall into various categories where what we care about mostly is the income that we're generating, okay? So that's why taxes matter to me and you, is because the way that we're going to acquire more wealth is through our income, and that income makes a difference, right? If you're a billionaire, it's a totally different thing, right? For me and you, I need my income, and I want to keep as much of it as possible so that I can accumulate wealth, so that I can build up wealth, and I can utilize that money. If you're a billionaire, you've got so much money, you've got so much wealth already, that your concern is not the money coming in. I mean, maybe you want to increase your wealth, but it doesn't make a difference in your living. It doesn't make a difference in basically anything. So what you want to do primarily, think about this, is your primary strategy is to protect your existing assets, your existing wealth, right? You don't really care. So it's kind of funny, just from that perspective, when you think about it, does a billionaire care if they're taxed at a 90% tax rate? Doesn't really, I mean, maybe they want to accumulate more wealth, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect their day-to-day living. It doesn't affect just about anything, right? Now, that's just from a surface level. We're gonna dig a little deeper here, because I want you to really understand this, because again, this doesn't just apply to billionaires. This applies to, like, looking at the different perspectives here, and this is going to apply to you directly. You're going to see how this maps, okay? So think about it, okay? Billionaire doesn't necessarily care. Now, if a billionaire says, yes, tax people at the highest rate at 90%, I should be being taxed at 90% tax rate, okay, that doesn't really hurt Mr. Billionaire, because he's got assets, he's got billions of dollars. It doesn't matter. Plus, there are ways. A lot of people think that rich people are able to avoid taxes, and that's not really true, okay? It's not really true, okay? I have very, I'm not, rich by any means, but I have very expensive accountants, and I pay 50% of my income on taxes, okay? That's just like, there's not a lot of tricks you could do without like being totally illegal. There's some loopholes, there's some things, right, that if you have more wealth, you have more access to, but you're paying a lot of taxes if you're making a lot of money. It's just how it is, okay? But now, let's suppose that Billionaire says, okay, 90% taxes, and you say, okay, yeah, let's do that, and then you make enough money that you hit that bracket, and you get 90% tax rate, right? Let's say something ridiculous like that. That hurts you really, really, really bad if you're not a billionaire. If you're just in the millionaire, if you're up there, right? If you're below that, okay, it helps you a lot, right? But it's gonna. I did this video, not the best audio quality, on ladders, on why on moving from lower class to higher class. You should check that out. But anyway, so think about that. So just from a straight just who does it benefit or who does it hurt? The high tax rates for the rich don't hurt billionaires. They really hurt millionaires the most, okay? Those are not super rich people, and that's someone who has some level of assets, but they rely on having money coming in, okay? Billionaires don't care if money comes in. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't change anything. For a millionaire, someone who's worth maybe like $1 million or $2 million and has a very high income, that high tax rate hurts them really bad, okay? And for someone making less than that, it doesn't hurt as much because it's graduating tax rates. Now, why would a billionaire, what is a billionaire's motive? Okay, so if you're a billionaire, your motive is to not lose your assets, right? You don't want to lose your assets. So people, historically, the quote rich, the super rich, have been historically chased with pitchforks out of their homes and killed and had their wealth taken from them, okay? People are jealous. They don't like the super rich. So if you're a billionaire, think about it. You don't care about taxes because you don't care if your income is taxed. Your main thing in life, right? The main motive that you have financially is that you don't want to lose your assets, okay? You don't want to lose your ass. So how do you do that? How do you prevent yourself from losing your ass? Well, one way is to do things that don't hurt you but do help you, right? So all you got to do is essentially appease the masses. You just have to avoid the scenario where people come to your house with pitchforks, pull you out of your bed at night, and slaughter you and take your money, take your stuff, okay? And if the commoners, right, if the lower class of people think that you are this fat hog, okay, and that you've got all this money and they don't, and it's unfair, whether it's fair or not, let's not even discuss that. That's when you're in danger, okay? That's when you're in danger of losing your stuff. So what's a great position to take? Well, a great position to take is, hey, I'm a philanthropist. I want to give away money. Not only do I want to give away money, I want to raise taxes on rich people. I should be paying more taxes. It's not my fault. Don't come after me with the pitchforks. Come after the government because we need to get higher taxes on rich people. It's just not fair. I agree with you. I agree with you 99%ers. Yes, right? And you see that, right? You see that from billionaires, from Bill Gates to George Soros to Warren Buffett, okay, and Mark Zuckerberg. All of these billionaires, all of a sudden, they're very liberal, democratic, and seem to have very big government, high taxes, welfare state type of views. Why? It's just what I said. They are afraid of literally of people coming with pitchforks, pulling them out of their bed and killing them. That's the only thing that could screw up their life, that could screw up their day. Taxes, doesn't matter. Not only that, but think about it this way. It's all about leverage, right? We think in terms, a lot of times in monetary systems, of amounts, but it's not. It's not amounts. It's not how much money you have, okay? Having $1 million today does not make you rich, but 50 years ago it did, right? US dollars. It's because it's relative amounts, okay? It's based on inflation, the value of the dollar, yes, but how much other people have in comparison to you. So let's say that you're a billionaire again, okay? Now, if there's a lot of millionaires coming up the ranks, okay, and they're making a lot of money, what's the best way for you to keep and gain as much power as possible? It's to stuff those people down as much as possible. So if you were to, as a billionaire, if I were a billionaire, I'm not a billionaire, if I were, I would want a very, very high tax rate, 90% or more tax rate on millionaires. I would be wanting to destroy my competition. They can't come up to my status. That makes my status and my power much, much greater because there's less people. They can't get there because I'm putting a bunch of cattle trops, I'm putting a bunch of barriers in their way by having high tax rates, right? The high tax rates don't affect me as a billionaire because I already got this hoard of wealth. You see what I'm saying? Right? And that wealth is like it's such a huge resource, right? It's the people that are relying on income to continue to build their wealth. That's the ones that I need to stop, right? If I want to gain as much power. Now, I'm not saying that all billionaires are like that. Not every billionaire is trying to hold down the millionaires in order to gain as much power as possible. There are some for sure, and you can't know their motives, trust me. But you can see here, there's those motives, right? So as a billionaire, it only makes sense for a billionaire to want to have high taxes to support liberal democratic views, right, politically, because they need to appease the masses, because the only threat, the only danger to them is going to be an overthrow, is the masses being disgruntled and there being a redistribution of wealth, a severe one, a violent one, where they end up losing their assets. So if they become philanthropists, if they can, they're kind of forced into this choice, right? They have to become philanthropists and they have to support high taxes, they have to support welfare state, they have to support all of these things. So let's take it back to you again. If you understand this, if you ever have any aspirations of ever being a millionaire, right? I'm not saying billionaire. I don't think that I'll ever be a billionaire. That's a totally different ball game and field, and maybe some of you watching this, it's very doubtful that anyone will become a billionaire. But there's a lot of you watching this that have a high potential of becoming a millionaire, right? And a multimillionaire, okay? So if you have any aspirations of ever reaching that level, which you should. I think that is an achievable level. You don't want what billionaires want. Do not use them as a model, right? Their political views, their economic views are totally different, right? Because even though right now you might be what would be considered in the low class or welfare class or whatever, poverty level, although if you've got an iPhone, you're not in poverty level, I'm sorry. But you might be in that level, or you might be lower class or middle class or upper middle class or somewhat upper class, right? Wherever you're there, okay, there's that space where it's kind of like upper class, really, but not billionaire status. And that space, if you're aspiring to get to that space, you want that path to be clear. You don't want a bunch of hurdles. You don't want to get there and then be screwed, okay? And that's what happens when you say, oh, well, Warren, Buffett says this, blah, 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 blah. No, sorry, he's got a totally different set of motives. He's got his totally different political agenda based on him having those assets already. Again, good or bad, I don't know. I'm not a judge of his character, but I'm just saying, everyone is going to do what's in their best interest, right? In general, from an economic perspective, guys like Bill Gates, guys like Warren Buffett, right? They are thinking in a totally different way, and it's all about protecting their assets, okay? Where you are about acquiring assets. So you don't want to support the kind of political views, you don't want to support the kind of thinking that makes it difficult for you to acquire assets. Taxes are a drain on you acquiring assets. They don't hurt you so much on the assets that you already have, right? So it's a handicapping type of thinking. And again, tying it back to you, I don't mean to make this a super long video. Regardless of where you are in that spectrum, if you ever have aspirations of reaching that level, okay, and being someone who has reached not as super high on that level, but but past the millionaire status or the multimillionaire status, I can tell you that it does hurt. That there are, like, when you're paying 50% of your income or more in taxes, that slows you down greatly. Okay, and it's not cool. it's not fun. You don't want to get to that place and then be suddenly stuck, right? Have all this growth and then all of a sudden you're stuck because you're slowed down greatly by that. And there's a lot that you could do with that money, not but to grow, to build more assets, to grow yourself more, but you're stifled by those high tax rates. So anyway, this is not necessarily meant to be a political message, although I suppose it is. But I just want you to understand, I want to do another video talking about Obamacare and why that only hurts the middle class. I'll do that video. Let me know if you want to hear about that, because it's a very similar scenario where in fact, that scenario, millionaires, they don't care. It doesn't make a difference. But you should really consider this. You should really think about this very carefully, about where people's motives are. Every time you want to figure out why someone's doing what they're doing, you got to put yourself in their position and see, think about it from that perspective. And like I said, I mean, from a billionaire's perspective, that's it. It makes sense. It makes sense why these guys are so philanthropic. It makes sense why they want high taxes, right? I hope you can see that and realize that it's not just because they're good-natured people and this is the right thing to do. Some of them may be, but there's a very, very big incentive from their position to have the position that they have. So anyway, if you like this video, go ahead and click that subscribe button below. I want you to be a millionaire. I want to show you how to get there. If you follow some of what I'm telling you, let's do it, right? So click that subscribe button. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.